Okay, well now we've all discussed biscuits, it is time to get back to business. And I am very looking forward to working with our next speaker to the stage, who will be delivering a talk on our stimulation theme. Mann MBE is a sports consultant, campaigner, filmmaker and broadcaster. Leon is co-founder of the Football Blacklist, an initiative that highlights the achievements of the black community in the sport. He is also the founder of the Black Collective of Media in Sport, a group campaigning for greater diversity in the sports media, as well as a board member of the Professional Game Match Officials Limited. He is also Vice Chair of the Sports Journalists Association and co-founder of the Sport People's think tank. And if that's not enough, he also spends some of his time interviewing some of the biggest stars, like David Beckham and Shelley Ann Fraser-Pryce. And now we welcome him very warmly to deliver his talk on how I got things wrong. So please put your hands together for Leon.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all well. I've never done a 15-minute presentation. I normally like get an hour or something, so it was a nice challenge to look at what I could pull together within 15 minutes. So hopefully it offers some stimulation and gives you an idea of how I got things wrong. Because normally when people stand on podiums, they talk about all the things they did well. But actually, I think there's more value in actually sharing some of the things I got wrong in this EDI space. So first of all, I chose this picture very deliberately, but not knowing that it was going to be in the very room that we was taken in 2010. This is where we had our Football Blacklist event many, many years ago, and I was literally stood there. And that was the beginning of the things that began to go very well. And at this stage in my life, I kind of was a journalist at the BBC, had been a campaigner at the Kick It Out campaign, and we'd nailed this event. It really went well. You know, when everything just kind of comes together and the magic happens, it went so well. And I was stood there thinking, this is amazing, this is what success looks like. But actually reflecting back on this, thinking back to the decisions I was making at the time, thinking about the blind spots that I had in the work that I was doing, I was miles off, absolutely miles off, and at the beginning of a journey. So here I am, looking a lot older, a couple of months back at the Football Blacklist event, and I'm going to tell you a bit about who I am to give you greater context on the journey that I've been on. So BCOMS, the Black Collective of Media and Sport, I founded that in 2008, and that's a campaign essentially to diversify the sports media. So when we look at the field of play, we look at football, for example, 43% of players in the Premier League are black. However, when you look at a World Cup, and we did some research on this, like in 2000 and, let's say the Euros 2021, there were only 2 black sports writers out of 78 that went along. So there's big underrepresentation when we look at the sports media, and having been a sports journalist at the BBC, I wanted to change that. And my campaigning background meant that I didn't want to just come and talk about it, but I wanted to say, right, what do we do? So I knocked on doors and began a campaign that went on to do some, pretty impressive things. I'm the co-founder of the Football Blacklist. Rodney Hines, who's the sports editor of the Voice newspaper, is the other co-founder. And essentially this list highlights black excellence in the football industry. So I talked about the context of, in men's football, this representation on the pitch of the black community. But when you look off the field of play, we have mass underrepresentation in almost every single area of the game. Coaches and managers, we kind of go, I think 4.4% across all 92 clubs come from black communities. And when you look at the 43% in the Premier League and the 34% of black players across the EFL, that shows a clear disparity there. Across the Premier League, across the boardrooms, there's only 1 black director across all 20 clubs. Again, think about that 43% of the assets in football coming from the black community. So we wanted to shine a light on the people that were there in a celebration to make sure that people saw that there was black talent outside of the pitch, and particularly to the black community, the younger ones coming up. If you wanted to be a doctor at Arsenal Football Club, or maybe my team, Tottenham. Do it within the sports industry. People have been there as pioneers before you, and there aren't many, but there are people to follow. The Sports People's Think Tank, this is where we did some work in terms of trying to influence policies within the game. So I came together with some academics and some former footballers, and we put together academic research. We got athletes around it and got them to scrutinise the data that we had and make recommendations. We did 4 reports, launched them each time at the Houses of Parliament with the all-party football group, and we managed to influence policy. We managed to move things forward. Refresh Sports is the business that I own now, and as a business, we advise in EDI and communications. From the MLS is one of our clients. We do some work with the FA. We do some work right across sport and in the media, and that's all been going pretty well. And all of my work is anchored in EDI and a belief that diversity means better business. And if you need an academic report to look at to prove that, I recommend the McKinsey report, which talks about the benefits of diversity for better business performance. So the success, these things all went pretty well, which is like difficult when you're trying to scale it up and you're essentially a one-man band to start with, and then kind of get a few more people and a few more people and a few more people. But BComs is an award-winning organisation. This picture was taken in this room. Yes, it was taken in this room. There. So this is a really important room, actually, thinking about it now. Gareth Southgate came along and spoke to these brilliant, diverse, young creatives who wanted to be in the sports media, who wanted to be content creators in their own right. And looking at this picture, so many of these people now are working at the FA, they're working at FIFA, they're working across Premier League clubs. They're doing all sorts of incredible things, but we created a pathway through BComs to enable that. So BComs is an award-winning organisation. The Football Blacklist, as I talked about, 2010 we were just getting going. 2024 we're globally recognised. So the last celebration that we did, we had 700 people come together at a warehouse out in Battersea, which was fantastic. Online, we've reached millions. One of our online shows reached 600,000 people through one showing, which was absolutely amazing. And globally, I mean, I'm getting messages from family in Jamaica going, wow, that Football Blacklist thing you do is amazing. I was like, how do you know about it? Well, it's just been on the news. So it's nuts. It's nuts that we've managed to achieve so much through the Football Blacklist. And now it's become almost like a point of reference where people come to say, where can I find brilliant black talent? Well, it's like we've got so many different lists each year that actually it provides a resource to the industry, which has been great. And the Sports People's Think Tank influenced policy. So we campaigned for probably across the course of about 6 to 7 years. And the EFL actually adopted a policy which we were pushing for, which was a version of the Rooney Rule. NFL fans in the room will know what the Rooney Rule is, but essentially it's kind of ensuring that you're interviewing at least one candidate from an underrepresented background as part of a process. So they made that part of policy in their academies, which showed great success, and then they made it part of their policies within their first teams eventually as well. So really, really proud of what we achieved there. And Refresh Sports now, we're doing really, really well advising leagues, associations, athletes, not just in this country, but worldwide. And as an individual, things have gone pretty well for me. Got an MBE in 2021, which made my mum and dad very proud, and have received other various awards because of the success of the things that I have been involved in, working with excellent people to deliver. But I'm here to tell you how I got things wrong, not how I got things right, because it has been a big journey. With BComs, when I started BComs, we came together at the Soho House Hotel in the middle of London, and all those people that I invited to the first meeting were men. We all sat round, we all had a chat about the lack of diversity. We didn't really recognise the irony in that at the time. And we said, we need to do something. We need to change things. How do we change things? And we just had this really, what I felt was a fantastic meeting, and went off and went about meeting other people, but actually it was only a few years later that we actually realised, hang on, something's missing. Yeah, we probably should get women involved in this, right? We haven't thought about intersectionality. We haven't thought about these things. And at the time, it was just like the energy was, look, we're moving forward, we're doing great things. We kind of, how could anyone question anything we were doing? But we were getting things wrong. We were missing things, big things, 51% of the population things, in terms of the conversations that we were having. And a lot of our work was done around men's sport. So it wasn't done around women's sport. It was all centred around men's sport. And again, I believe that was because our lens, in terms of being a group of men sat round, was firmly on men's sport because that's where we had a focus. The football blacklist, our first list, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, look at this, mum, look at this list, it's great. And actually, looking back at those lists, bloody hell, like there's about 3 or 4 women on there, right? And this is a list of about 35 people. So while we were celebrating the success and the progress that we felt we were making, we were way behind. The Sports People's Think Tank, it was a bunch of blokes, basically, and we were all focused on men's sport. And I guess this is a really important part for me, the attitude. And when I say attitude, I kind of always like to think of myself as someone who is like a good person in the world and thinking about change. It's all the work I did at Kick It Out, it's the work I've done as a campaigner. But actually, when I was being told, I'm not sure about that, and maybe you should think of it in a different way, and I'm not seeing many women around what you're doing, my initial reaction was to kind of have an emotional reaction to this. I was like, oh, hang on, I'm doing something really positive here. You can't have a go at me, X, Y, Z. And that was the wrong response. The wrong response, because actually, taking a step back, understanding the things that you're doing well, yes, great, but understanding the things you're not doing as well is just vital to be able to move any kind of organisation forward. So what do? We need to change things. So instead of like taking it as some harsh criticism which was personal to me, I started listening and thinking about the opportunities that could come about if we did things in the right way. And we had to be intentional. The attitude I had was, well, look, women will come if they fancy coming. If they don't, they don't. Was the wrong attitude. Of course it's the wrong attitude. You have to be intentional in terms of what you're doing to make sure you're doing something relevant to women, to make sure that what you're doing collectively is actually impactful beyond what you might think as a small group. So actually, we began to be intentional in terms of what we did. With BComs, diversified the board. The best things we did as a board came from the decisions that were led by women on the board, 100%. Set targets on gender and other areas of intersectionality. We need to make sure that we're working to targets. It couldn't just be, we'll try our best, we'll see what happens. So we worked to that. And the football blacklist diversified our judges, added an LGBTQI plus award, and spoke to people with disabilities from the black community. Well, how would you want to be represented within this? Leon, we don't win an award for being black and disabled, but we do want to be within your show, because your show gets huge amounts of people together who are hugely influential. We started making change. The results, better business. Everything began to go well, and the success I talked about at the beginning of this session is as a result of this. If we did not make these changes, if we did not do things in an intentional way, then I believe that the initiatives I've put together would not have grown and would not have been successful. So BComs and Blacklist are still not perfect in any way. However, because of the intentional change, we've made strides forward, and things are markedly better, and the positive feedback has been increased a hell of a lot. And interestingly, we've had stronger engagement from the industry, from commercial partners, from community, more so than ever, and we feel that we've set industry standards much, much higher than they were previously. I think people look now to what we're doing and say, how do you manage to get such a diverse room of people together? How do you manage to deliver across so many different areas of diversity? And that's all because we made intentional changes and continue to do that. So my final encouragement to industry leaders, and I believe everyone is a leader within their own right, is stop taking the feedback personally. It's not about you as an individual. It's constructive feedback for you to think about how you can do things differently to serve different audiences in a different way and be relevant in your space to as many different audiences as possible. Truly listen to that criticism and feedback and think about what advice you can take from experts in your field. I got called out on Sky Sports News live by my good friend Jess, who was the presenter on the day. She said, the football blacklist don't do anything around LGBT. So the response I had was, yeah, you're right, we don't, and that's wrong. We should do something, because actually this is a great opportunity. So we changed things, we made the change, and that now is an award that is like really, really meaningful to all parts of the community. And our awards night, sometimes or often the biggest cheer of the night is for that award, because people recognise the challenges with intersectionality in that particular area. So diversifying is better for business. It's been better for all the initiatives that I've ran, and academic papers support that. So finally, thank you for listening. I think I'm within the 15 minutes. I'm looking, I've got a thumbs up, so I think I'm within it. And I'll leave you with this quote, and it's not, I'm just using this because I like being in the Guardian newspaper and I quite like the jacket on the day. But we need people in power to show they care about diversity. And show is not standing on a stage and talking. Showing is telling us about the actions that you've taken. So I would encourage you all, whatever area of the sports industry or the business you're involved in, to take actions and to listen to feedback and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. We do have time for a question or two, if anyone has got one for Leon, and if you're open to taking them, Leon.
No, this wasn't part of the brief, but it's fine.
Has anyone got a question they'd like to pose to Leon?
Don't be shy, I can take the feedback. Or criticism.
Oh, go on then, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for that. What's next?
Oh dear, right. In terms of what's next, the aspiration and aim, we've already started diversifying the football blacklist. So I found partners in rugby, so there's been a rugby blacklist that's been delivered twice now because the context within the sport exists in terms of underrepresentation. Tennis, there's a tennis blacklist, so that started. And my big goal, I don't know if you should share goals on stages like this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm really determined to do it, is to move the blacklist concept into American sports. So NFL, MBA, I think if we can move this concept into America, it makes a big, big noise and it has a big, big impact because the MLS are one of my clients and I've been over and seen repeatedly a lot of the energy there is around different communities and the different approach to diversity work actually. How do we sell to black people? That is the energy, not how do we make sure we're not looking bad in front of black people. So I think we've got big, big opportunities there and I'd love to be able to move the concept into American sport.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Leon, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.